Wife got pregnant while my best friend was living with us, but the thing is I had a secret vasectomy done to me years ago, so I simply played along until I had proof of their affair. So I recently discovered that my wife, Devin, was having an affair with my best friend, Jeff. And I found this out because she's pregnant. You might ask yourself, but if she's pregnant, how do you know? Well, I got a vasectomy in my previous marriage. So I know my wife has been screwing around on me because there's no way she can get pregnant from me. And some of you might be thinking, you can still get pregnant with a vasectomy, don't come at me with that. There's a less than 1% chance that I got her pregnant. And we've taken tests since then to prove that it's not mine, so there. Some context. So my best friend, Jeff, recently went through a divorce earlier this year. And I grew up with this guy since we were in grade school. I mean, we're basically brothers. We were both the best man at each other's weddings. We went to college together and took the same courses. We ended up in the police force together and stationed at the same place. You get it? So I first got married when I was 20, and my ex-wife, Trish, and I were high school sweethearts. I was the small town hockey star who everyone knew was going somewhere. She was this smart, cute, funny pastor's daughter who everyone loved. Anyways, we ended up having our daughter when we were 21 and my son when we were 24. We had a miscarriage in between the two. After my son, my ex-wife and I decided we didn't want any more children, so we decided that I should get a vasectomy. So without telling anyone, I didn't feel like I had to announce it to the world. I went in for a simple lunch surgery and went back to work and no one was the wiser. My ex-wife and I ended up drifting apart and we separated amicably. It's not that we didn't love each other, we did, but the love just changed. She had started up this home organization business after the kids were old enough to be a bit more independent, and she got really successful with that and wanted to make the brand bigger. So she put in a lot of time with that, and I was still really passionate about what I was doing and I was getting deployed all over Canada to teach and whatnot. So we both just kind of drifted apart, but we still fully supported each other and the lives we were both leading. My ex-wife and I are still really great friends and we see each other constantly, and all of us have even shared holidays together. Anyways, Devin and Trish were on good terms and they even went out and did things without me too. They had a great relationship. So then this brings me to Jeff and his wife. We all spent a lot of time together and we did a Friendsmas thing and a Friendsgiving every year. We all spent a lot of time camping together. We did a lot together. And so when he said that he was getting a divorce from his wife Amy, it sort of hit the friend group hard and we tried our best to support them in whatever way they needed. However, Amy really gave it to Jeff hard and was saying that she was going to take the kids to Ontario to be with her parents who still live there. So naturally Jeff was devastated on hearing this and he tried his best to keep his kids here, but alas, she ended up moving there and did, in fact, take the kids with her. So it was rough to see him go through and it was hard to see him being treated like that and getting his kids taken away. So in this time, he really leaned on us, and because they had to sell the house we let Jeff stay with us for a little bit until he landed on his feet again. Well, it turned into a little bit longer than we would have liked. Then Devin sort of had this idea that we could renovate the garage and turn it into a suite. So I complied and Jeff was really gracious about it and helped out and spent a lot of time making it his own. Whatever, it was a bit of an annoyance, but I wanted to help in any way that I could. And it was better than him staying in our house. At least he was out of the house and in his own space so that Devin and I could have proper alone time without worrying if Jeff was going to hear, if you catch my drift. Okay, so now Devin. Devin worked as a dispatch agent for a little bit and that's how we met. And the job is actually really stressful, so she managed to stick it out for 2 years and now she works as a hairstylist and loves it. Devin and I met a few months after the divorce with Trish was finalized. We hit it off really well. She's actually 8 years older than I am. She said that she didn't want any kids and she was really fun. Like really fun and wild. We had our motorcycles and went on hunting trips. She was like one of the guys but like a chick. And a chick that wanted to get down and dirty with you, lol. That's a horrible explanation, but you get it. She was fun. She was everything that I needed at the time. We had the same interests and we had a lot of the same hobbies. And because she had mentioned that she didn't want any kids, I thought, wow. Great. I don't have to worry about telling her that I had a vasectomy. So the topic never came up. Yes, I know, I'm a horrible person. I never told her that I had a vasectomy. But because the topic of kids never really came up. That was sort of it. She obviously was the best stepmom to my kids and she had always said that that was enough. She wasn't even the marrying type until I just felt like, yeah, I want to spend the rest of my life with this woman and it just feels right. It's not like she was against marriage or anything, but she just didn't expect it, you know? She didn't need to get married. She was so chill that way and I loved that about her. So we ended up having this small, intimate, backyard wedding and a fire with a barbecue and it was perfect. It was perfect for us and all we needed. So yeah, shortly after we got married, Jeff went through his divorce. He was staying with us. Blah blah. Now, we worked together but we weren't on the same team, so he had different shifts than I did. And Devin had a really lax schedule too. So a lot of times, Devin and Jeff were at home together alone. And at first I thought it was just Devin being helpful and a good friend. But after a while, It definitely started getting weird. I'd text her during the day and ask how her day was doing, and she'd say, "Oh, Jeff and I are just out for lunch," or "Jeff and I are just out running errands." And I'm like, "K, weird." But then they were going to movies together. And then they'd go to concerts together. And then when I was home, I saw little things that rubbed me the wrong way. Like he'd touch her arm when she was talking to him. She'd touch his bicep when he made her laugh. She'd dish him up food and she wouldn't dish me up food. And then she'd constantly bring him up like, "Oh, Jeff told me about this." Or "Jeff said the funniest thing." And I was like, okay. Red flag. Definitely raised my suspicions. Then even though he was literally up in the garage suite, they'd text into the wee hours of the morning and she'd be giggling and texting him. And there I am laying next to her in bed, and honestly, I'm trying to start something up, trying to give her a massage or something, get in the mood, and she wouldn't be interested. She'd just keep texting him. So I'd just roll over and just fall asleep and she'd be texting him. Then there would be little gifts here and there. He got her like bath stuff for the bathtub, and in one gift set there was massage oil. And after a week, I noticed that the bottle had been opened and used, but I didn't use it on her. At first I chalked it up to maybe she used it for lotion or something. But the thing is, this oil had a distinct smell. And I remember smelling it on Jeff a few times, but I never said anything. I was just sort of collecting all of this evidence and making mental notes. Then one day, we're laying in bed late at night and she turns to me and she's like, "I want a baby." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I think we should have a baby." And I'm like, "We agreed not to." And she's like, I've just been thinking and I think we should have a baby before we're both too old." And I'm like, "Devin. Ike." And she's like, "What do you mean you don't know?" And I'm like, "Well, a baby is a lot. It takes a lot of time and energy." And then she got mad at me and she's like, "Don't treat me like your old child." And then I said that I thought we went over this before. And she's like, "We never really did." And I'm like, "I feel like it was just an unspoken thing. And I feel like you said that you were okay without kids and were good with being a stepmom." And she's like, "So I'm not allowed to change my mind? You won't let me be a mom?" And I'm like, whoa, that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I think we have to talk more about this and maybe now isn't the best time. And she's like, "Well, what would make it a good time? When will you want to talk about it?" And I'm like, "Can we like sleep on it and talk about it tomorrow and make time for this tomorrow?" And she got pissed and left the room. And yeah, I didn't have the heart in that moment to tell her I had a vasectomy and it would be physically impossible for me to give her a child unless I went and got it reversed. And even then it's not 100%. And something was just sketchy about the whole conversation anyways. I thought it was weird that now, all of a sudden, she wanted a baby. She had never ever shown interest in anything like this before. My alarms are going off. I'm pretty sure I know what happened, but I need to play along a little bit here. The next day, I apologize and I'm like, "Yes, I'm game. Let's make a baby." She literally jumps for joy and we try like 5 times that day. Then about a week later, she hands me this box, and in this box is a positive pregnancy test. I could have cried. I was stunned. I knew it couldn't have been mine. And I'm not an expert or anything, but can you find out a week after? I don't think it works that way. Anyways, let me know if I'm wrong here. But the point is, I had a hunch and I knew the baby wasn't mine. I knew it must have been Jeff's. So I started watching them closer. Both Devin and I had agreed not to tell anybody that we were pregnant right away. But when I was watching Devin and Jeff interact, I caught him grazing her belly at the side of my eye. I pretended like I didn't see, but he for sure touched her belly in a lovingly way. There it was. A few weeks after that, she tells me she's going to her doctor's for the first little exam to see how far along she was. And that Jeff was going to drive her because he had to do some running around in the area anyways. And I was like, no need. I'm taking time off because I want to be there. And she sort of smiled and was like, "You don't have to do that." And I was like, "I'm the father. I want to be there." And I kinda smiled and she weakly grinned and was like, "Great. Of course you do." So yeah, we ended up going to the appointment and the doctor does her thing with her and asks her when she thinks she's conceived. She gives her the date that we did the old deed. There's an ultrasound. And then the doctor comes back and says that she's 12 weeks. And I'm like, "How is that possible?" And I look at her and she's like, "Doc, is this for real?" And she's acting all shocked and everything. And the doc is like, "Yeah. Seems like you have a miracle." And I was like, whoa. And I pretend to be totally ecstatic to not tip her off that I knew anything I shouldn't. Then we go home and when we're home I'm still pretending and she's like, "Oh. It was meant to be. What a miracle." I'm so excited. We end up having sex again that night and I turned over and fell asleep. I had the next day off but I knew she had to get up early because she had a wedding to do. I knew that was my chance to pack her shit and lock Jeff out of the suite. I knew Jeff also had to get up and go to work. So I did just that. I packed all of her garbage, I stockpiled it into our trailer and I parked it on the street. I had a spare key to Jeff's suite, so I went in there and packed up his stuff too and threw it into the same trailer. Then I put this big old lock on it so that he wouldn't get in. So Devin comes home first and sees this trailer parked there. I had changed the locks on the doors and the password to the garage so she couldn't get in. She's standing there and she's banging on the front door. I talk to her through our doorbell camera and I tell her that we're done and I know the baby isn't mine. She's saying that I'm out of my absolute mind and calling me crazy, and she's bawling and making a big scene, and I can see our neighbors looking out their doors and windows. And I'm like, this baby isn't mine. It's Jeff's. And she's like, don't be insane. Why would it be Jeff's? And I'm like, you tell me. And she's like, how could this baby not be yours? And I'm like, there's a less than 1% chance, and I know that because I have a vasectomy. And she literally dropped her purse and her bags onto the ground. She stood there in disbelief. And she's like, let me explain, and she starts trying to babble on, and I'm like, save it. I know it's not mine. And I'm like, we're done. It's over. I was nice enough to pack the trailer for you. Get out of here. And then she calls someone, and I'm guessing it's Jeff, because then he shows up in a matter of minutes in his patrol car. He sees what's happening, and he sees the lock on the garage suite. He tells me that I'm losing my mind and that the kid couldn't possibly be his. And I'm like, I'll believe it when I see a paternity test. Edit, people have been asking how she never knew and how she didn't suspect not getting pregnant before. Well, she was on birth control pills for PCOS. Or so she told me. Supposedly she was in the process of swapping pill brands and just so happened to get pregnant with Jeff's baby. Bad timing. Not only that, but she had this thing against, well, man juice, to put it lightly. She was absolutely repulsed by it. She refused that I ever finished in her, and she rarely ever pleased me in other ways because the sight of it disgusted her. I won't go into details. But yeah. Update, so, getting divorced. Again. Another failed marriage feels like absolute dump, but what can you do? In the midst of the divorce, Devin did end up getting a paternity test, and it only confirmed what I had believed. The baby is in fact Jeff's. And I guess he knew all along and was willing to play along and thought that he could just live in the garage suite forever and raise his baby as Uncle Jeff from afar. A buddy of mine did me a huge favor and got Jeff transferred to a small northern town literally in buttfuck nowhere. Devin, I guess, followed him up there. She was just trying to pretend that I impregnated her so that I didn't catch on to the affair she was having with Jeff. But turns out my little secret snip saved me from raising a kid that wasn't my own. By the time she realized she was pregnant though, it was a bit late. Trish and I talk every day. She checks in on me and she's being an absolute sweetheart. I'm spending a lot of time with my kids and just trying to get by and be the best dad that I can be. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Wife of 20 years asked for a hall pass to sleep with someone else, but then I caught her on a date with him, so I sent his wife roses with the restaurant name. My wife and I have been together for 20 years. We met in our freshman year of high school and we have been together ever since. She and I both lost our virginity to one another, we went to prom together, and we even went to the same college after graduation. We got married right after we graduated from college and we settled down to start our life together. Having a family was always something we were looking forward to, so once we had good jobs we decided to start. Fast forward about 11 years, and we have 2 kids, we own our own home, and we are on a fast track to retiring early so we can travel and do all of the things we never had the chance to. I thought that we were living the dream life. All of that came crashing down when my sister-in-law was diagnosed with lung cancer. She was my wife's best friend, and she took it very hard. She was with her every step of the way while she was fighting as best as she could, but in the end, she passed away. It was a huge blow to the entire family, myself included. It's such a cliché, but she was just a beam of light in the world. My wife took it harder than anyone else. My sister-in-law was who my wife would go to when she needed to talk about anything. They would go shopping together, and they knew everything about each other. I was there for my wife while she grieved the loss, and I helped her get over the worst time of her life. After about 6 months of mourning, my wife started to get back to herself. She had all of my sister-in-law's journals and her notebooks, and she read through all of them while she was grieving. I couldn't even begin to process the types of emotions she must have been feeling, so I just tried to be supportive and lend an ear when she needed it. One thing that got to my wife was feeling like she hadn't done anything with her life. Her sister was taken way too soon, and through the journal entries, my wife realized that her sister felt like she didn't get to do enough in her life. I guess when my wife read all of that she thought that her sister would have wanted her to do the opposite. She told me that she had been inspired to start living. She wanted to travel, go skydiving, and just enjoy the life that she had while she had it. I wholeheartedly agreed with it. That's why I had been working 60 hours a week since I graduated college so we could try to retire early. Over the next few weeks, she started doing more things. For example, she started taking pottery classes because she'd always been interested in it. She had been teaching herself how to rock climb because she wanted to free climb, and she even scheduled a bungee jumping excursion for her and our son. She seemed to be leaning into this new lifestyle. I didn't think anything of it. I was happy for her because she was recovering from the loss of her sister. One night, after she came home from the climbing gym, she was acting off. Before that, she had been very upbeat and excited about everything while she took on this new lease on life. After dinner, when the kids were in their rooms, she pulled me out to the patio where we shared a couple of glasses of wine and looked at the stars. Toward the end of our conversation, she brought up the possibility of both of us having a hall pass. For those of you that don't know, a hall pass in a committed, monogamous relationship is a one-time opportunity for both of the partners to have sex with someone outside of the relationship. I was completely shocked by what she had suggested. It felt like it came out of nowhere, so I asked her about why she was bringing it up. She assured me that she loved me, but she felt like she might have been missing out on a part of her life because she had only ever been with me. She tried to say it in a way where I wouldn't be hurt, but it was impossible not to feel horrible when she said that. I told her that I wasn't supportive of the idea. She and I had been married for 20 years and I didn't understand why it was a problem all of a sudden. I didn't want to sleep with anyone else and I wasn't okay with her sleeping with anyone else. We were about to go back inside but I stopped and I asked her if there was someone she had been interested in sleeping with. She was hesitant to tell me the truth, but after a few moments, she told me that there was another person who went to the climbing gym that she was attracted to. She told me that he had always been flirty, and recently he asked her out for drinks. I was assured that she said no and that she would tell him that she was married. But I still went to bed that night with a sour taste in my mouth. It took a few days for me to come to terms with what she had suggested. I was unbelievably hurt by it. But after some time, I forgave her and we carried on as if the conversation never happened. After a week or so, she told me that the climbing gym offered a class to start working outdoors and that she wanted to sign up for it. One Saturday, she went out early in the morning with the class. At least, that's what I thought was happening. Our daughter had been entering those years where she started lying to us about where she was going so she could go to parties and hang out with friends we didn't approve of. So, we told her to leave her location on Snapchat maps so we could verify she was where she said. That same afternoon, our daughter was supposedly going over to a friend's house so I checked the maps to make sure she wasn't lying. Everything was good on our daughter's end, but I noticed that my wife's avatar was in the heart of the city. I was a little confused because I had been told that she was going to a park about 30 minutes outside of the city. I zoomed in on the location and saw that she was at a bar. I tried to rationalize it like she was just hanging out with some of the other people from the climbing gym after they got back from their climb. But I had a sinking feeling in my gut that I couldn't ignore. I remembered what she had said about the guy from her climbing gym asking her to go out for drinks. I didn't think it was that far of a stretch to wonder if she was there with him. I was home alone and the bar that she was at only happened to be about a 15-minute walk from the house, so I grabbed the dog and we took a walk. I kept my eyes on the map every so often just to make sure she was still there, and she wasn't leaving. When I got to the bar, I looked in through the windows and I saw my wife sitting at a table with a man. They were both leaning close together and smiling from ear to ear as they chatted. The man reached across the table and grabbed my wife's hand, and my wife let him. Of course, hand holding isn't necessarily cheating, but it was an indication that maybe there was something more going on. I went home before my wife saw me there and I waited for her to get back. The entire time I waited, I didn't know if I was going to confront her about it or try to dig around on my own. She came home and before she even said anything to me, she went right to the shower. I tried to grab her to have a conversation, but she just told me that she was gross and sweaty from climbing. That solidified in my head that something happened while she was with that man. She had dropped her gym bag down near our bed, and I noticed that her phone was still inside. I pulled it out and looked through it to see if I could find any information about who that man was. I searched the name of the bar in her text messages and I found a chat between her and an unsaved number. I scrolled back to the beginning of the conversation, which happened to be about a week before she asked me about the hall pass. I skimmed through the rest of the messages, looking for keywords that would indicate an affair. Eventually, I found a few exchanged pictures and some explicit messages. Then I saw the plans for them to get together at the bar. They even came up with a lie to tell me and his partner together. I had no idea who that guy was, but I was able to find out by looking through the climbing gym's social media. They had posted a few pictures with some of the clients, and he was clearly in one. He was tagged in it and everything. I did some digging and found out that he was married with a newborn baby. I was disgusted by what I saw. Hurt doesn't even begin to describe the pain that I felt. I had been with my wife for 20 years and she was willing to throw all of that away because she wanted to sleep with another man. I was furious and I was so disgusted by the foul actions both of them had done. At the end of their message chain, with no context, was the name of a restaurant with a date and time. A week had passed since I discovered my wife was cheating on me, and I had come up with a plan to catch her in the act. While I was thinking about it, I realized that the wife of her affair partner deserved to know as well. When the day of the meeting was supposed to take place, I sent his partner's wife a dozen roses with the information for the restaurant on the card. I hoped that it would be a way to trick her into thinking he had a surprise plan for her. I waited outside of the restaurant and I saw her head toward it. I followed her inside and we both noticed our partners holding hands at the same time. She rushed right over to him and started yelling at him in front of everyone. My wife was shocked to see me, but she jumped up and tried to tell me that it wasn't what it looked like. Then I asked her to explain the text messages and she went silent. I told her that I would be ending everything between us and that she could expect to see me in court. We spent the next 8 months in a divorce battle over what happened. The biggest issue that we had was custody. We both wanted primary custody of our children, but in the end, we were given joint custody. I was able to keep the house and she was entitled to no spousal payment from me. Her affair partner was also divorced, and he was forced to pay child support and alimony to his ex. My ex and I only recently finished the divorce proceedings, and were finally done with each other. I honestly don't know what to do from here. I had only been with one woman and she stabbed me in the back and I'm not sure how to move forward.